Good afternoon, everybody. We just had proof that if anybody ever had doubt that HR professionals and recruiters are not competitive, clearly we are, right? That was a lot of fun to watch, and thank you for doing that to keep people awake. The two most challenging times to speak are just before lunch and just after, right? Standing in the way of food or just after the idili and all the other good stuff that was out there. Thank you for the kind introduction. In the next 20 minutes or so, I want to share with you some of my experiences and thoughts on recruitment, how recruitment has evolved, a bit of a look back, look at the current situation, and then, of course, the future. Some of my experiences around Asia as well. Also, this notion of talent acquisition, what it means. It is ever-changing and particularly relevant in India. A couple of disclaimers. First of all, I've been in India for exactly 2 months, so I don't claim to be an expert on India. I've been in Asia for some 27 years altogether, originally from Canada. And previously I was MD for Randstad in Japan. So I was in Tokyo and I came directly to India, and I'm based down in Bangalore. Another disclaimer is I'm a recruiter. I started on the desk as a researcher. You could call it a headhunter. I started with a phone and a computer that didn't have internet. Remember those days? Yeah, those were the days of sourcing, creative sourcing. And I'll tell you a story later on about something I'm doing with my young recruiters and taking away technology to see if they can match what we used to do in the old days of recruitment. So let's talk a little bit about the way things were. Just a quick question. I should have added this to your quiz. When did recruitment begin? We actually know when it began and we know where it began. Anybody know? Go ahead, yeah. World War II. Interesting, yeah? Go ahead, yeah.
There was an agency, I want to say it was something like Miss Marple, but that's wrong.
Yeah.
Anyway, because I did a presentation about this at Sourcing Summit, the first UK one, and it was a placement agency for domestic staff based in Miss something or other, and it's still going now.
Yeah,
It's
that's right. And at that time, it was considered illegal. It was banned. And in fact, it was a black market industry. Interesting. Fast forward to 2017. There still is a bit of perception of recruitment as a bit dodgy. Good answer. Nice try. But actually, if we go way back, oh no, there was, yeah?
When the serpent recruited Eve.
Say again?
When Eve was recruited.
When Eve was recruited. Wow. Excellent. Adam. Did Adam get a fee for that? Or did God get a fee? Now it's getting philosophical. Yeah, no, okay. No religion after lunch, right? Good try. You're almost there. It was actually 55 BC, and this is documented. Julius Caesar decreed that any soldier who introduced a new soldier to the army would receive a referral fee. Yeah? Of 300, and I looked this up and I'm still not sure, sesterces. At that time, that was the currency. Annualized, normalized, it's probably about $10 million today. Yeah, well, I mean, it's 55 BC. That's a big fee. So Julius Caesar figured something out that we are still dealing with today. Referrals are golden. Yeah, and he got the human touch piece right as well. And I bet you there was a bit of an employer brand story there as well. Join my army because my army is going to win. Join my company because we're on a mission to be the best, to make a difference, to move the needle. So we can learn something about Julius Caesar. Fast forward to World War II. Someone just said that as well. That's a great example of recruitment about to take off. So during World War II, there was an extreme gap of talent because they were all off somewhere else in the war, right? And businesses had to keep on going. Banks were running, and schools, of course, continued to run, and the service industry, of course, existed. Somebody had to staff it. So that's when staffing agencies emerged in sort of a formal or semi-formal way. Again, they were considered illegal in most countries. So the government took over, and then we had the government-run employment agencies. But as we know, the government usually is not so good at this sort of thing, right? That was a bit of an omen. All right, keep your back to the wall. So there was this negative perception, and I see that even a bit to this day, having worked around Asia, I think, and part of it is our own fault. When I say our own, I mean us in the industry across both staffing and permanent recruitment and so on. However, what we've noticed in recent years is the evolution of recruitment as professional services. And I stand here in front of you as someone who believes that we offer a very important service to you as a partner. And I talk about you as companies who are trying to grow your teams and build your organization. We are certainly in the business of providing solutions. You know? So let's talk a little bit about the old days. Anybody here over, let's say, 40, 45 knows what this is? I actually showed this to some of my young people in my organization. They had no idea what it's called. Anybody know? A Rolodex. So all you young folks, you just learned a new word, eh? A Rolodex. Back in the day, in the old days of talent acquisition, whether you were a TA person in HR responsible for hiring, or whether you were a recruiter, you had one of these. And some of you old school folks may have one on your desk still now. You know? I've actually got one, and it's full, because I can't find where to buy a new one, because they don't sell them anymore, I don't think. But the Rolodex is where it began. That's where recruitment really started. The Rolodex represents something bigger. It represents connections. Yeah? So again, if we look at today, we look at technology and how we build connections and webs of connections, it actually started right here. This is what we're seeing today with social media and social networking and so on. When I started in recruitment, that's what my desk looked like. A little bit more advanced. I had a phone. I didn't have a computer connected to the internet, and I had a Rolodex. But I remember on the very first day, when I had my new Rolodex on my desk, I had exactly 0 business cards in my Rolodex. Now what? So what did I do? Probably you're doing it too now, eh? You're using different mediums, but I picked up the phone and I called anybody I knew and say, hey, can you help me out? I asked for advice. And then the journey began, and I got my very first introduction, a candidate. And by the way, I ended up placing that candidate, and I'm still in touch with that candidate today. Yeah, and I always buy dinner, by the way, with that candidate. And yeah, she's a wonderful woman. So this is really where it began. A little creativity, a little bit ingenuity. My message to you is nothing has really changed. Go back to the Julius Caesar days. Go back to the Rolodex. Go back to a phone and some ingenuity and creativity. The skills that made us successful in the past are the skills that will make us successful in the future. Yes, there's different avenues and mediums. We talk about chatbots and all kinds of cool technologies out there. But at the end of the day, the basic qualities are creativity, ingenuity, and connecting. So we know that times have changed, especially in recent years. I stand here on the stage, I've got all kinds of good logos behind me, some of my competition that are doing really interesting things, more coming that aren't on here that we're hearing about. And certainly some of these would be considered our competitors. I remember when LinkedIn first came, and there were lots of articles, interestingly, on LinkedIn, saying that recruitment was going to die. Yeah, this was the death of recruitment. Well, I can tell you that, if anything, our friends at LinkedIn, and they are our friends, by the way, we have a global partnership, we work very closely with LinkedIn. LinkedIn has helped to create more jobs, net, for all of us, including Randstad. Yeah, so thank you, LinkedIn, for arriving, for growing, for challenging the market. We embrace technology, and I think all of us in the room should embrace technology. The key is how to use it. Now, all of these, in a way, are great tools for recruitment. When I look around Asia, it's interesting that Japan, as the center of technology, is also probably the biggest lagger in technology. If any of you are responsible for recruiting in Japan, you probably know what I'm talking about. Yeah. In Japan, LinkedIn has the lowest penetration rate in the world of a modern nation. They have 1.3 million users. And it's painful for LinkedIn to have 1.3 million users in a country of 130 million. Whereas in Singapore, they have over 4 million in a population of 6. So that kind of doesn't make sense, eh? It's quite a working population. So Japanese candidates behave differently. We know that in India, Indian candidates behave differently. Understanding that and connecting with them using technology is the key. So this is where localization comes in and leveraging technology. We know that in India, while Facebook is popular, actually YouTube is extremely popular. And YouTube is an interesting way to attract candidates. Leading companies in that space are now using YouTube as a vehicle to build employer branding, to build communities. Every time somebody likes a video that you post on YouTube, you now own that person as part of your community. So some best practices. Some companies are now using YouTube to build their talent communities. Something to think about. At Randstad, we adopted something 2 or 3 years ago now, Tech in Touch. It's interesting because as Randstad, I mean, to be quite frank, 57-year-old company, Dutch, small town or small area of Holland called Randstad. The very first candidate we placed was a temp worker, and our founder, Fritz Goldschmiding, will tell you this great story, which is true, where this candidate didn't have transportation to get to the office where she was going to work. She was a temp secretary in 1960, so he put her on the back of his bicycle, and he rode her on the back of it. He took her to the office and dropped her off. Yeah, talk about delivery, that's a solution. Yeah. And that bicycle is still in the lobby, encased in our head office in near Amsterdam, in Diemen. Yeah. Ingenuity, creativity, delivering on the promise. That's really where it began. And now, of course, again, we use technology. We embarked on a journey to move from a very analog company into a tech in touch model. You may have seen in the media that we've been on a bit of an acquisition spree of technology, very unlike a company like Randstad. We acquired Monster. Yeah, so our brothers and sisters at Monster working closely in some of their technologies to, again, engage with talent. And several other, I think 10 or 12 companies now we've invested in. Just one short story for you that may be of interest for you in terms of using technology. One company called GigWalk. And this is a company in the US that basically was doing mystery shopping. You would register with GigWalk as a candidate. You have a smartphone. You now have a gig. And by the way, the gig economy is massive and will take off soon in India. It's already started. Now you're registered with GigWalk, and you get a message, pops up, says, oh, I see you're at the corner of 37th and 49th Avenue in New York. Can you pop into the 7-Eleven, take a photo of the Coca-Cola display? Sure. I walk over into the 7-Eleven, I take a photo, I hit send, I get a recognition thank you, I get paid, e-payment. I just got paid. That was a gig. So you could walk around town and do that all day. It's piecework. It's outsource of piecework. We saw that in Japan and said, hang on a second, this could work for us here. We have clients that need people for one day. For example, we need people to sell Coke at the cricket stadium this weekend for the match. We need some 500 people to work from noon to 5 p.m. So we took that technology, we modified it, turned it around, and then we had our candidates register on that app, the GigWalk app. So now they get a pop-up on Thursday saying, hey, are you free on Saturday to work at the stadium from 12 to 5? Click yes, show up, punch in with a barcode, a QR code, work from 12 to 5, punch out with the QR code, get paid, e-payment. Yeah. We have 7,000 candidates now on GigWalk in Japan from a zero start just a few months ago. This kind of story I share with you, it's not so much an infomercial about Randstad, it's an opportunity for you. There's so many great technologies out there that you could utilize to implement in your business. We have some of those technologies, which we could help you with, of course, but certainly they're out there. It's, again, a creative approach. So when you think about talent acquisition, how can you use these technologies that might exist for something else, modify them for your needs? It's an interesting discussion. This is a hot topic for me, and I think for everyone who's in talent acquisition. Back to the Rolodex. In a way, that was a talent community, sitting on your desk. The talent community now that we create is a web of connections. It's degrees of separation. The leading companies that are winning in talent acquisition and winning this war of talent and battle for talent are the ones that are consciously creating talent communities. The HR leaders that I meet with are partnering across functions with IT, with marketing, and marketing has an important seat at the table, to create the employer brand and to come up with a strategy on how to send that message out to the talent communities and create that market, and then to own that community. What we know is, again, back to the 55 BC, we know that one person brings in one person, and guess what? That person that got brought in will probably also bring in someone, and so on and so on. We also know that people who are happy, anyone who's in e-commerce knows that a happy customer tells 16 people, right? An unhappy customer tells 3 times that. Unhappy customers are more vocal than happy customers. It's an interesting thing, isn't it? Your talent that you're interacting with and engaging with, whether you hire them or not, are becoming your brand ambassadors. Again, using technology to create a brand for hiring is crucial. Yeah. Something I also did in Japan as a bit of a response to insourcing versus outsourcing. And we'll call that, some say in-housing, I'll call it insourcing. Two of our clients needed some CAD work, computer-aided design work done. Yeah? And this was piecework. It would come regularly, but it was unpredictable. They didn't want to hire people as full-time employees to do it. So we said, okay, we'll take that risk. We'll hire the people. So we hired 100 people, and we created a CAD center in our office. We created 30 stations, and CATIA, if you're familiar, the 4D. And we took piecework from the clients. What we didn't predict, though, was we thought we would be hiring young people, train them up on CAD, and put them to work. As it turned out, the most popular candidate pool for this particular function were housewives. So Japanese housewives started to come to us and say, well, I know a little bit about technology, but I'd love to learn this and do this work on my hours. So what we ended up doing was modifying our solution, and we turned it into a great story, which is all over the media now in Japan, where mothers would drop their kids off at school, come into our location, sit down and do some work for Honda, for Fuji Heavy Industries, for Lixil, and so on, and do the designs, and then head back home, pick up their kids, make dinner, see you tomorrow. We even set up a daycare in the office. A creative solution to a hiring problem. You could say we insourced. Yeah? Something also to think about. So, I do believe that in this world of tech, and it's all around us, it's overwhelming. Even today, as I've sat here and I've been in our session on RPO, and now I join you here now, I've had 74 emails. Many of them say they need my action. Yeah, that's not going to happen, by the way. And beyond that, of course, you're getting tagged on Facebook, you're getting tweeted on Twitter, and so on and so on. It's hard to avoid technology in our current day and age. We need to pick and choose. And so in this era of tech, I think what I'm seeing, and when I've seen it around Asia, and I'm seeing it here in India as well, the sheer amount of technology and data that we face every day, touch is becoming more and more important. What's interesting is we're seeing a full circle evolution of recruitment. So it comes back to the insourcing versus outsourcing. How much of this should be outsourced and how much should be insourced? Well, if you think about outsourcing as a notion, outsourcing typically, you would ask someone else to do something you don't want to do or something you can't do. Recruitment is recruitment is the most important thing that a company will do. It's more important than sales. And sorry to any salespeople in the room. Talent acquisition is more important. It's more important than strategy, and any good CEO will tell you that it always starts with people, right? Yet, we place a lower value on it. We talk about selling, we talk about strategy, we talk about marketing, we talk about IT. When do we talk about talent acquisition? So it needs to move up the priority chain. Some things do need to be outsourced, but again, I would change the phrase from outsource to insource. One great example is recruitment process outsourcing. Maybe we should change it to RPI, recruitment process insourcing. I launched it in Japan, had a great experience sitting across from HR professionals in Japan, at multinationals as well as Japanese companies, and talked about this thing called RPO. Well, in Japanese, there was no word for RPO. So if you said RPO, no one understood it, of course. So we actually had to create a word. So we modified it a bit in Japanese and made it recruitment process insourcing, which worked really well because it meant that we were going to come in and be a partner with the client. I suggest to you that for some roles, it's a great idea to partner up with a company that can provide the knowledge and the resources and leverage technology and everything you might not have to source those candidates. On the other hand, you might want to handle it yourself, but it does require a clear strategy. And that strategy is something that should be cross-functional. We hear a lot about omni-channel marketing. It's been a hot topic for the past few years, especially with e-commerce. We know that buyers touch the opportunity several times. So they research that particular product once, maybe on the train or in the taxi or in the auto on the way to work. And then they close the iPhone, they get to their desk, they have their coffee, they get to work, lunch break, they bring it back up again, they look at it from a different angle, maybe on a different site, read some more about it, close it down. Later in the day, on the way home, they might look at it again. They get back home, they have dinner, they open up the laptop, they look at it again, they close it down, they get on their iPad, they look at it again, and they hit that quick purchase button on Amazon, that one click, which was the best invention ever. And the reason Amazon did so well is because they knew that if you rewound the story, probably that buyer had looked at that product several times along the way and then finally was ready to buy with one click. That was the culmination of the omni-channel marketing. Take this into talent acquisition. It's the same story. Where are you touching your candidates? How are you touching them? Are you doing it organically through your own connection, through your own virtual Rolodex? Are you reaching out to a partner who's an expert in the field to help you create those touch points and build an omni-channel marketing strategy? Since I've been in India now 2 months, I've actually sat down with several clients and talked about this, and we're mapping it out with some. Part of it is under the umbrella of RPO. Part of it is just straight up, we're helping them recruit and advising them how to acquire talent. We don't claim to be able to provide everything you need. That would be silly. We know you're better at some things than we are, but we're there to support and identify where we can add value. So I come back to the story about Julius Caesar. He taught us a few things. Go back to basics. Referrals are golden, by the way. And as a recruiter, there's no benefit to us in terms of financial benefit, but certainly we know that it's great for you. We also know that A players hang around with A players. And so our ambition is to create a talent community of A players that we can provide to you to close that skill gap that Prime Minister Modi is talking so much about in India, with so many graduates coming out every year, yet the skill gap is widening. And so we know that our role is to help you close that gap, to get the best people, to help you leverage technology, to help you do some innovative things in creating an employer brand, creating these talent communities that you own and that you can leverage to grow your organization. Because we do know, again, people are the most important part of our business, me included, by the way. I'll stop here, and if there are questions, please. Thank you. We've got a few minutes for questions. If there are any, I'm happy to answer some. Yeah, someone here?
Hello. So when we talk about the outsourcing model, it is easy to convince on the functional part or maybe the technical part, but when it comes from the cultural aspect, for example, you being as my partner, working for me, making understanding about any role per se. But when it comes to the culture part, how do you convince, or how does the model works out in that aspect?
Well, that's a good question, especially under the umbrella, let's say, of RPO. I've sat across from many leaders of talent acquisition and HR directors and so on, and the first reaction is, well, you're going to take my job away, or my team's job away, right? As there's that sense of being threatened. For it to work, and I have been part of projects that have worked very well. I was with a client yesterday. Fantastic. Huge scale up in India, and we're doing a great job for a piece of that. I think what it comes back to is, one, are you ready for it? And when I say you, it's not just the talent acquisition, the HR team. It comes right up to the top management. I have also been at the table when we start talking about this solution as a potential opportunity, where we backed away and said, you know what? This is not the right time. I don't think you're ready for it, and I don't think we can deliver under these circumstances. In other words, you don't want us here. We shouldn't be there. So my recommendation, if I look at companies that have done this well, it starts with the top. It starts with getting line managers to understand the benefits of outsourcing a piece of recruitment. Now, on the other hand, if you're able to insource, in other words, if you're able to build a SWAT team of in-house recruiters that are the best in the market, by all means, do it. But this becomes a decision that you make of opportunity cost. Some companies have done it. I have also seen companies that have done that, build strong in-house recruitment teams of 20 to 30 recruiters, but then come full circle over time because the performance just didn't justify the cost. So I think the buy-in is kind of a great thing. But again, if you partner with a company that specializes in the area, is confident that they can deliver, bring them to the table. I've sat with many leadership teams of clients and boards and helped HR convince them that this is something we should do.
All right. So you mean to say you need to start from somewhere, then we'll take it ahead from there?
Yeah. I think it's also a conversation. It's not, we don't come to the table to sell it. We come to the table to talk about this as one potential opportunity. If not, we could also talk about the omni-channel piece, the employer branding piece. We can help with that as well.
All right. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Hi.
Oh, they're up here. Okay, good. Well, we got this gentleman here. Go ahead.
Hi. One of the key challenges that recruiters typically face is to understand the requirements or the objectives of the business. And sometimes it boils down to understanding the business itself.
Yeah.
Is there any guidance, advice from your side on how recruiters can better understand the business objectives and therefore the job requirements?
So when you talk about recruiters, you're talking about external recruitment partners that you're working with, right?
Especially in areas of niche skill hiring.
Sure.
That's a typical challenge.
Sure. One exercise, I actually just came from that in Tokyo. One of our major multinational pharma clients, I think you're here in the room, but we spent some time with that local HR team and we mapped out the recruitment companies that they were using. They had 35. Probably not much different than a lot of you. You probably have terms and conditions signed with gosh knows how many, right? They had 35. We went down and we mapped out the results that they had over previous 3 years in terms of delivery. We found that only 14 had made placements there. We're talking about perm, by the way. So we decided that as a criteria. If they haven't delivered service, then they don't qualify to be on the preferred vendor list. So that was strike one. Then we set up an open house. We brought the entire leadership team from this company, all the line managers, HR and beyond, of course. And we invited these companies to come with 2 people from each company. And we did a half-day workshop on who are we. When I say we, I mean the client, the company, the hiring company, the brand, and so on. So it was about getting them to really own and understand the story and become evangelists for the brand. And then we had them put some skin in the game, because recruiters need to have skin in the game to be effective. So my advice to you, and please do it to us, to my guys and gals, if you want to stay on this preferred partner list, you have to deliver. And that's working very well for them, by the way, because the folks who were cut out now want in, and the others have to perform to stay. And it's not about price, by the way. I'll say that because I'm on this side of the table, but it's not about price, because you know, lower price doesn't mean better service. So we need to be talking about delivery. Yeah.
There is a difference available, means we are seeing in the market that skill level, what is available in the market, is not exactly addressing the requirement.
Yeah.
For example, like, engineers, once upon a time there used to be shortage, now there is oversupply.
Yeah.
Now you are seeing there is an oversupply of MBA, but there is an undersupply of lot of niche market or niche people.
Yeah.
Now how to address this one?
Oh, this is I wish Prime Minister Modi were here. This is a question for him. Yeah? All the initiatives have been fantastic, the 4 key initiatives that he's come up with. But certainly the jobs haven't been created that match the skills. So I would say that this is where we need to step up as a recruitment company, where we can add value. I gave the example in Japan where we said, hey, the skills didn't exist out there. Let's skill them. So we brought in people and we skilled them up to perform a task, a function, and we delivered. So I do think that there is a role for companies, especially of the scale of a Randstad, to add value. Work with the government, for example, to make sure that this skill gap is closed. To be honest with you, we're not doing enough. We need to do more. Yeah.
Is there any possibility of bringing annual, survey report that where the students will get also some update?
Yeah.
That, where there is a more demand. At present, what's happening, students may not know that there is so much of demand.
It's a good point.
And they are just going for engineering and MBA. Ultimately, they are not getting suitable jobs.
Yeah. So most recruitment companies will publish some sort of white paper on this topic. We have one that we just released in March, our Work Monitor report and talent report on India. And we clearly outline which industries are burgeoning and which ones are suffering. One thing I would leave with, if we talk on that topic, if I'm a young person coming out of school, I'd be looking at digitization as, again, one huge topic. And then underneath that, I'd be looking at e-payment. E-payment is a huge industry. And we haven't even scratched the surface on this. Not to mention July 1st. What's coming? GST. Do you remember, anybody who's a little bit older, remember Sarbanes-Oxley? Do you remember what happened then? Yeah, it created tons of jobs. Does anybody rewind a little bit back more? Y2K? Remember that? Created a lot of jobs, right? So I do believe that there are opportunities here for both of those. Digitization, demonetization, of course, but this whole notion of e-payment and GST will create an industry. Yep. Go ahead. Sorry, I haven't even looked at these questions on the board. Should I be... Oh, yeah, there's some good ones. That yellow one's really good, yeah.
Yeah, wanted to ask, during the... Yeah, hi, this is Rohit.
Sorry, hi. Yeah.
I come from data analytics field. Just wanted to ask, during the course of recruitment, while screening, are you using some analytics tools to be able to better screen and engage the candidates?
Psychoanalytic skills, in other words, like Myers-Briggs, DISC, those kinds of things?
Right, and analytic tools like algorithms to better understand, the match between the profile and the candidate.
Yeah, we have a our job company boss fit tool, which basically we map out based on our knowledge of the job. The boss, by the way, because all of our data shows in 38 countries. One interesting, it doesn't matter where you are, Japan, the US, Poland, China, people join companies because of, you know why? Money. And that was not even true in China and Hong Kong, where I worked, believe it or not. It's never been money in any country where we've done this study. People join companies because of people. They leave companies because of people. It's amazing. And you can look at all the data out there and you can say, oh, no, people join because they leave for, a little bit of money, or they join for money. No, ultimately it comes back to people. If you join your boss and you leave your boss, that's the other piece of this story, right? So we do have a model that we use to minimize the risk because, again, from our perspective, we want to get you the best candidates, whether they're a temp worker, a perm worker, a contractor, and we want them to stay and do well with you. Because when they do, you need more people, your company continues to grow, we can continue to partner with you. Ultimately, that's the aim. So we need to get that right, that best match. Yeah. Should I look up here really quickly?
Hi, Paul.
Well, there's a lot of questions. Should I choose? Does anybody want to?
Hi, I'm Sucheta.
Go ahead. Is your question up here or?
It was, I don't know where
Yeah,
to start.
okay, go ahead.
A trend wherein people aspire more to be an engineer or a doctor. How do you inspire the young generation to get into talent acquisition and get more efficient people to work on the assignments of the company?
Yeah, make talent acquisition exciting, attractive as a profession. By the way, it is a profession. It's a vocation. It's the most important thing we do as a company is acquire talent, right? That's a really tough question because I bet you if I went around the room and asked, did you grow up wanting to be a talent acquisition specialist? You probably would say, no way. Yeah, we all kind of came on strange journeys to get to where we are now. But I think that's also what makes us good at our job. The fact that we had some life experiences along the way. But again, employer brand. Employer brand is not the brand that's on the logo. The employer brand is the story behind what you're doing. And you might not be the most famous company in the world, but if you have a really unique and interesting and compelling story, you need to share that story. Come back to the omni-channel marketing piece. You need to be using every medium to do that. In the process, you will start to attract people that connect with your story, very talented people, and a lot of those people will become your TA professionals. I'm told I have no time, so I have to wrap up. Yeah, sorry, I'd like to stay longer, but I'll be around for the rest of the day. Thank you for the warm welcome, and I hope you got something out of today. Thank you.